This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac, 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 16 campus and community radio stations, from Newfoundland to British Columbia. Vitayu, my name is Stefan Andrusiak. This is episode 170. It was recorded in Kamloops, British Columbia. Situated at the junction of the North and South Thompson Rivers in the Thompson Valley, Kamloops is the second largest city in the BC interior, population 90,000. Their tourism webpage continues, it is home to the Kamloops Powwow, the International Buskers Festival, the Kamloops Marathon, the Brewloops Beer Festival, and many wineries. Kamloops is a mix of rolling grasslands, sandstone slot canyons, and finally there is the sagebrush, a whole lot of sagebrush. Which brings us to the Kamloops Ukrainian dancers, who take their name from this tumbling weed.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Olenek, and I am the director and founder of the Pocatello Ukrainian Dancers of Kamloops, British Columbia.
Hi, I'm Erin Slazak, and I've been dancing for the majority of my life, and I'm now a teacher with Pocatello Dance.
Hi, my name is Haley Rizunik. I've been dancing with Pocatello for 16 years, and I teach with Pocatello now.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Way, and I've been dancing for 8 years, and I am helping with the little kids.
Tell me about your ancestors, where they came from, and how they ended up in Kamloops.
My grandparents on both sides came from the Bukovinian region of Ukraine, and they emigrated with the first round of settlers in Canada. So my Baba was 5 when she came to Canada, and my Guido was a little bit older, and they were first generation. Well, actually, they were born in Ukraine, and then my grandparents on my other side were born in Canada. So most of my family is from Saskatchewan. We were farmers and part of the settlers there, and my parents moved to BC when I was about 5, and I've been here ever since.
So how did dance enter into your life? First of all, where were you born in this whole picture of your ancestry?
I was born in Calgary, and my family moved around a lot when we were children. And once we got to BC, I started watching Ukrainian dancing on TV, and I was absolutely in love with it. And I always wanted to learn. Didn't know that there was a group in Kamloops, but I wanted to learn desperately. We were at the Dauphin Festival in Manitoba one year. I think I was in grade 6 or grade 7. And I watched these Cossack dancers come in on their horses. And they galloped in on their horses, jumped off their horses onto the stage, started dancing, and that's it. I was learning to dance Ukrainian. And that was it. And I found a Ukrainian dance group in Kamloops, and I became a Ukrainian dancer.
My dad is actually first-generation Canadian. He's the Ukrainian one of my family. But we recently actually found out that on my mom's side, there's a German family that lived in Ukraine for a while. So I never, unfortunately, knew my grandparents. And as a kid, I missed that. So as a way to connect to my family, I decided to get into the culture. And I always loved to dance. And my dad suggested Ukrainian dance. And so I fell in love. I love the costumes, the colors, the red boots were so exciting for me when I first got those when I was old enough.
How old were you when you started?
5, I guess, yeah.
Can I ask how old you are now?
23.
5 to 23. How about yourself? Do you know about your family history?
Well, my dad is Ukrainian, and his parents traveled a lot, and they are both Ukrainian.
What brought them? Why did they move to Kamloops?
Well, my dad moved to Kamloops because he met my mom.
Okay. Can you tell me where he works? What does he do?
He works at Air Canada.
My family history, we don't really know a lot about it because it goes so far back. We've been in Canada for a very long time now. But from our documents, we found that our family came from somewhere along the border of Ukraine and Poland, where it is now. But we came over before Ukraine was officially formed. And we believe we were actually part of the Rus people who helped form Ukraine. When I was younger, I was always told by my parents I had to be in a physical activity, which of course is a good thing. But I learned that my father was Ukrainian and saw Ukrainian dance in the activity guide for Kamloops. And it just went, well, that's what I want to do. Joined dance and loved it Joined it when I was 5, loved it, and I've been doing it ever since.
The group travels around in the local areas, so we'll go to Knutsford, Cache Creek, Sorrento, Salmon Arm, and we usually perform at year-end festivals for the Ukrainian groups in Vernon. But we also travel annually to the BC Ukrainian Cultural Festival there, and we compete. So other than the first year that I formed the group, we've been there ever since. We usually bring back a mitt full of medals, and we've even brought back first place trophies. We've also brought the group to Vegreville. We were asked to perform there a few years ago, and on the way home, we stopped at the Ukrainian Pioneer Village for everybody to participate and learn a little bit more about our culture.
What are the roots of the dance group in Kamloops? Was there one before this?
Yes, there was a group called the Sosna, and that means pine cone, and that's where I learned to dance. And when my oldest niece was about Erin's age, I asked her if she wanted to do Ukrainian dance, and she said, yes, Auntie. So I brought her to the Sosna, and she started dancing with them. After a couple of years, they were having troubles keeping an instructor or finding a female instructor, so they asked me a few times to dance or teach dance, and I said no. And eventually they called me and I did it. I had been teaching for a couple of years when the group started to fold. I had so much fun teaching dance, and I just love children. I love Ukrainian dance. So I contacted the city and asked them if I could start teaching Ukrainian dance through the city. So I formed the Pocatello Ukrainian Dancers.
Where does the name Pocatello come from?
Well, Liz Line was one of my mentors, and she's with the Ukrainian Orthodox Society, and she suggested the name Pocatello because it means tumbleweed, and it's representative of both the quick twirling steps of Ukrainian dance and of our hometown of Kamloops, where you commonly see tumbleweeds rolling down the streets. It's a Canadian-Ukrainian word.
Okay, I want to find out about yourselves outside of dancing.
So I do a lot of dancing, and I go to practice where it's Irish, ballet, tap, and jazz, and then do Girl Guides in my spare time after all that.
Do you have Irish roots?
Yes, I do, from my mom's side.
Okay, very good. And you take Ukrainian dancing as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in school, what is it that you're studying, and what do you want to become when you're a little older?
The thing I'd probably want to be when I grow up is a choreographer.
Choreographer. And where does that come from, the experience that you have in your various dances?
Yeah.
Right now in life, I'm kind of undecided on what to do. I'm working in a local grocery store right now, trying to figure things out. I've taken a few different courses in university, but still just figuring it out. I know I love dance, but that's pretty much it at this point.
Okay. What's the best part about living in Kamloops?
Well, I love the size of Kamloops. So it's got that kind of small town feel, so you're not just lost in a big city, but it is big enough that there's stuff to do, and it's not like so a small town that you're kind of trapped. And we are pretty close to Vancouver and also Kelowna and bigger places. And of course, just the nature and the hiking and the lakes around Kamloops. Like BC is beautiful in general, and Kamloops is pretty emblematic of that.
What are you studying or which field do you want to work in?
So I'm currently working towards getting a Bachelor of Education, and I'm hoping to be a elementary French immersion teacher. So I just finished a year abroad in France, and now I've got to finish my Bachelor of Arts, and then I'll go into my Bachelor of Education. And my goal with that is to help spread French to the west coast of Canada, because we just don't have a lot of French speakers here, and I think it's important for our culture, Canadian culture, to learn.
What were the French-speaking influences in your life, if any? What led you in that direction?
I think it was just, I've always loved history, and half of the history of Canada is the French that came over. And then just we were forced quote unquote in school to learn another language, and I stuck with French, and I started to really like it, and I thought this is going to open doors for me in the world because there's so many countries that speak French, and it'll open doors for me in Canada because we're supposed to be bilingual. And a big part of it also was my sister. She really liked French, and so I looked up to her. And
in your time abroad, where did you live in France, and what was that like?
I lived in the Besançon, it's a city called Besançon in the Franche-Comté region, which is just on the Switzerland border. And that was amazing for me because my French level just shot like straight up. It's so much better. And it was amazing to see like you can't always see the progress when you're learning a language, but I definitely saw that, which was exciting. And I was also able to meet a lot of new people from other cultures. So from Asia to parts of all over Europe and from South America. And I just learned about so many other cultures, and it was just so wonderful to see so many different points of view and learn from so many people.
In developing dances, do you bring in influences from other cultures or ideas, or do you try and stay traditional? Because from what I can see, there are two approaches going on.
My preference is to stay traditional so that we can retain our culture. But once in a while, we'll bring in like a fun element, like we might do a silly character dance. Or one year I was watching Irish dance, and I really liked some of the formations that they were doing. So I popped a couple into one of my dances, and at competition, they were like, wow, that looks great. So we incorporated a little bit there. But overall, I like tradition. I have a friend in Vernon. Her name is Andrea Malish with the Sadak Ukrainian Dance Ensemble there. And we met up when I was with Sosna, and we connected, and she volunteered to come teach different regions to my group once I formed Pocatello. So I was only knowledgeable about Poltava region and a little bit of the Hutsul, but she's come and taught us Hutsul, Bukovina, Transcarpathia, Volyn, and Gypsy, and she shared that knowledge with us. One year we sent our girls to a Shumka tech camp, and they learned Polisian, so now we're doing Polisian dances as well.
Well, there's a lot of fun things we can do around here. Is that me and my cousins like to go down to the park and just play around.
I love living in Kamloops simply because of all the different cultures and everything we have here. Kamloops, I find, is very diverse and very accepting for the most part. And there's like a couple Ukrainian groups around here, and there's Indian groups, and just everything you can think of.
Косив батько, косив я, та й викосив солов'я. Соловей у саду, тьох та тьох, канареєчка. Роман косить, Ганка в'яже, Катерина загріба. Роман воли напуває, Ганна воду витяга. Ой, мама, люблю гриця, гриць на конику вертиться, грицю шапка до лиця, люблю гриця молодця. Посилала мене мати до криниці воду брати. Соловей у саду, тьох та тьох, канареєчка. Роман косить, Ганка в'яже, Катерина загріба. Роман воли напуває, Ганна воду витяга. Ой, мама, люблю гриця, гриць на конику вертиться, грицю шапка до лиця, люблю гриця молодця. Зустрілася з Іванком, та й простояла до ранку. Соловей у саду, тьох та тьох, канареєчка. Роман косить, Ганка в'яже, Катерина загріба. Роман волина.
The Mad Heads video has a slow wedding where everybody's very bored and very slow, and then they start playing Ukrainian music, and everybody bursts out into Ukrainian culture by pulling out Ukrainian clothes and switching to perahe and wadka and just having a great time. So we started off doing very slow, mournful, like it might almost be a funeral. And then when the music goes fast, we just burst into really happy Poltava music and style.
Батько в руки взяв на гайку, не стояла, щоб до ранку. Соловей у саду, тьох та тьох, канареєчка. Роман косить, Ганка в'яже, Катерина загріба. Роман воли напуває, Ганна воду витяга. Ой, мама, люблю гриця, гриць на конику вертиться, грицю шапка до лиця, люблю гриця молодця.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, and on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Choreographed. That's a great story.
Okay, so you choreographed this?
Yes, it's the first song I've ever choreographed, and it's very exciting for me. And it's also a solo for myself, and it's a slower song, and it talks about Petrus, which is like Peter in English, and it just talks about how the girl's lover went off to war.
Does he come back? Do you think he comes back?
I do not think her lover comes back. From the way they talk, it sounds like he died in the war, because he actually went off to the war because her mother did not approve of their marriage. So he went off to war to prove himself to her.
Why did you pick this song, and why did you pick this theme?
Well, I want to do a lyrical type dance because we've never done one in our group before, and I was just browsing some songs and whatnot. I found a few that were really pretty. I got them translated by another member in our group, and when I heard the story in this song, I just started instantly coming up with ideas for the dance.
No, Haley did a wonderful job with it, and when she came to show me the dance that she'd done, I was really, really impressed. All I had to do was make a couple little minor corrections or tips to help. It's really poignant.
In the dance, she dances with his sash, which is all she has left of him.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is a very sad dance, but Ukrainian dance has a lot of really like uppity and whatnot, like lots of high energy stuff. And so it's really a change of pace for us. That's what I wanted to do. My younger sister and I are actually saving up for a Ukrainian dance study program called Cobblestone. It sends you to Ukraine for 10 months, where you move cities every 2 months. And you start in Kiev, and you train with Virsky to start off. And they are known as the #1 group in the entire world. And it's just so exciting that you get to train with all these different groups, study Ukrainian dance and the Ukrainian language for 10 months. And be in Ukraine, of course.
Wait a second. Jeannie's sitting here. Virsky's the #1 group in the world.
Jeannie says yes. Virsky and Shumka are the number one groups.
Is it expensive? You say you and your sister are saving up. How much does it cost to go for that for two people?
With the exchange rates as they were, because it was in U.S. currency, it was currently, I think, $20,000 to go. So my sister and I are trying to save up for September 2020. We're not sure if we can go that year yet. We might do it a later year.
20,000 US per person?
It is a lot of money, $20,000, but it does cover all your travel costs, I believe, all your food and boarding, of course, your fees for training with the groups. And I think it might cover some other costs as well. I can't remember.
Do you have to be at a certain level in order to go? I mean, this is Virsky. Could I sign up? Why are you laughing?
I believe the program is open to anyone interested in Ukrainian dance and language. And culture, of course.
Is that what has to happen? You have to get your influences, the improvements from Ukraine in order to step it up a level?
No, because Canada has very good teachers, very solid instructors. In fact, I recollect my mentor Liz saying when she'd gone to Ukraine in the 70s or so, they knew very little about Ukrainian dance because of the communist era that had pushed Ukrainian culture down. So some of the instructors were actually coming to Canada to learn from the groups here and bringing it back to Ukraine. So we do have very good instructors here, but it's just, I think it's sort of intriguing to go and learn in the country of your family's heritage and origin. In fact, one of my pipe dreams is if I win the lottery, I'm taking the whole group and their families to Ukraine for a Ukrainian cultural and dance tour. So I hope those numbers come in.
Well, going off the question before about having to go to Ukraine, I think it's really interesting in that there's kind of the old world Ukrainians here in Canada, and maybe there's more new world Ukrainians in Ukraine. So in Ukraine right now, they have their culture and they keep it there, and it progresses and it moves around. And there's the old world Ukrainians here in Canada where, like my dad's family, moved here, and they have their traditions and they have their language. And I actually know a couple people who I know a couple words, or they've told me a couple words, and we've realized, well, those aren't the same words anymore. So there is kind of a different Ukrainian language here, as well as just Canadian words that they didn't have. My dad had a friend one time come and ask him, well, I've heard this word, it was Asperger or something, and Dad was saying, well, I've heard that before, but I don't remember what it is. And he finally came back to the guy and said, it's asparagus, but in Ukraine they don't have asparagus at that time. So it's really interesting to see how the culture shifts between the two countries. Even though we're supposed to have gotten most of our influence from Ukraine, we kind of molded into this old town Ukrainian Canadian culture.
My mom called it sparagus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exactly, and that changes like where in Canada as well, right?
Okay, here's the key question, the entire interview. Do you like asparagus?
Not really.
The future of the dance group, I know it fluctuates, like 30, 13, 8. Is that tough to deal with?
Some years it is, because when your numbers are a little lower, it's difficult to do performances because we like to be able to change costumes. We have some really beautiful costumes, and Stephanie's mom has made our most recent Polician ones, which are absolutely incredible, and we have masses of compliments on them. So when the number's a little smaller, it's hard, but it doesn't stop us. We'll do solos or duets. We just love to dance, so we dance at various events. We have annual events that we go to every year, and as well throughout the year we get asked to dance at seniors' places, schools, community events, cultural events, and so if we're available, we dance.
You don't have to be Ukrainian, right?
No, our motto is you do not have to be Ukrainian to love to dance. So anybody wants to come dance with us, no matter their level or their cultural background, are all welcome to Pocatello.
Je voudrais vous inviter à danser avec nous à Pocatello. On vous bienvenue.
My cousin, who was 20 at the time, came out to watch me dance. He'd never done Ukrainian dance. He loved it so much that he joined Ukrainian dance, and he was so good he ended up going on tour to Australia, where he was billeted and met his wife, who's Ukrainian-Australian, and is now living in Australia, married, near Sydney. Their children ended up dancing and going to Ukrainian school as well.
пісні Брітні співати не дала. А як настрій файний буде, будемо співати. А як будуть добрі люди, будемо вітати. А як буде файний газ да бринза заливанці, порох вкриє негаразди, будуть дикі танці. Нехай танцюй рівненько, ця мелодія простенька, ой заграємо музиченьку.
We do a Pocatello Ukrainian Christmas dinner.
Which is January the 7th.
That is correct, and we do that on the Saturday closest to that, and we celebrate by having all the dancers, their friends, and their family attend, and each group will bring part of the 12 traditional Christmas dishes, and we celebrate and share our culture. So we'll do things like the kutia toss, and we talk about how the animals are allowed to talk at midnight. And we also do some Canadian things and some of the Pocatello things we do. And we've had up to 72 people come to our dinner.
When I was younger, I had a golden retriever, and when he started talking at midnight, I was really scared.
Yeah, legend has it you have to be very nice because the animals will tattle on you to God.
You're listening to Ruslana singing Diki Tainsi, Wild Dances.
Ой, заграймо музиченьку там на говоримси, а на Емі і на Гремі най не заводімси. А як будеш музиченьку до мене чіпляти, забереш свою гітару та й підеш до хати.
Earlier in the program, you heard Golden Harvest. It featured the Cave Symphony performing the Shumka Dancers' Cinderella variations. Madheads XL sang Люблю Гриця, and Kubanski Chor with soloist Sofia Bovtun sang Polubila Petrusia.
Ой, заграймо музиченьку, щоб ніхто не стояв, щоби навіть не спинявся, щоби всі не бояв, щоби танці не скінчали, щоби всі тиснули, а як зійде зірка рано, тоді всі поснули.
Nasha Kasha is also a podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you're hearing, please rate us on iTunes. We gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha is provided by the Shevchenko Foundation. I'll be back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.